It's pretty good. Enlightening and frustrating at the same time.
But
Yeah, so.
it's in the old school. I just know that we're getting in conflict with that. I'll write it down again.
Yeah, that's their fall conference. So we're at
I would say no, you know.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. All of our board members are present for a quorum. Minutes of your previous meeting are part of your packet. You had a chance to review those, determine if they are correct or need any edits. If they appear correct, we'd entertain a motion to accept and approve.
Make that motion.
Mr. Moreland makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Ah,
Opposed, say no. We have several guests with us today with some public comments. With your permission, I'd like to jockey them upward on the agenda and take care of those listening concerns, and then we'll drop back into our regular and organized business. Is there any objections, board members? Okay, Tommy, do you know who's first, who's second?
Well, I think what's your name again?
Tina Dyer.
Tina Dyer. She had a previous problem earlier. Maybe they ought to go first, I guess.
Okay,
I'm
state your
sorry.
case.
Go ahead and speak.
I guess I'm here tonight asking and pleading for somebody to kind of listen to what we've been through. We just moved here from Macon County, bought our land in November, and hired Modern Constructions LLC to build our house. They started building our house and paid for our water meter. And at that time, his runner, by accident, put the meter in his name. When they got the first bill, wasn't even aware we had a bill. And we got a bill in February. I came down here to pay it. And at that time, I asked her to put it in my name, and she told me I'd have to pay a $75 fee. Well, in my eyes, my fees had paid for the meter. But either way, I paid for the meter to be put in our name. And we had leak protection on it at that time. So we had leak protection that was paid by your records December, January, February, March, and April. At that time, I paid every bill each month when it was due, even though we didn't even have any water lines going to our home. Sometime, and I go back to my calendar book and tell you the exact date, but somewhere in between there in April, our water lines were installed, but nobody used them. I was at this home every day, checking the progress of our home as it was being built. One evening in June, went back up just a minute, I'm sorry. In May, I came down here to pay a bill, and the ladies up front told me I didn't have a bill. And that I didn't understand, and I still don't understand. I didn't have a bill. I'd had one for 4 months, but I didn't have one in May. So I asked then about what was going on because our neighbor that was building a house 2 houses up from us, he hadn't had one at all. And I done had 4. Then come June, I come back down here on the 7th day of June because I still didn't get a bill to pay it, and the ladies up front told me I still didn't have a bill. Still didn't know why, but for 2 months I didn't have a bill. And I told her then at that time that I needed to put the leak protection back on because we had water lines going to the house at that point. On the 8th day of June, on a Saturday, me and my husband were down there working at the house, and he can hear better than I can. I can't hear that well. He heard something humming, and he thought it was electricity. And he went towards the electrical, and it wasn't the electrical, so the more he walked, he got to hear it, and it was coming from the water meter. And all I can tell y'all is we had nothing on Jed Clampett. It was boiling. And he cut it off immediately. We called our contractor, and they told us to make sure it was cut off, so we did. The 15th of June, we were down at the house again working, and we went to the mailbox, and I had a letter that came from the water board, I guess is who it came from, or the water department. And it stated that we might have a possible leak, and it showed 371,157 gallons of water went through that meter in 7 days. And I realized I didn't have the leak protection for those 2 months, but I also didn't have a bill for those 2 months to pay a leak protection. This leak protection that I was paying for 4 months, when I asked to get some help because we had paid it for those 4 months, they're telling me it was because it was in the contractor's name, not in my name. I've got proof of where I paid each one of the bills myself. We don't like being any kind of trouble here. I just want, I'm asking for some help, and I'm asking for some explanation at why for 4 months I had a bill and for 2 months I didn't. And I'm asking y'all to have a little mercy on us. I mean, I've got the leak protection now, and I would have had it then if I'd had water lines going to my home, but I didn't have any water lines going to the home. So, in my eyes, and that's all I can tell you, is in my eyes, I was paying for water where I was living at, plus there, I was out $78 to $80 every month for water, and one of the houses didn't have anything going to it. So I was trying to cut as much fat as I could from it, and I told the ladies up front, and I think if any of them were here tonight, they would tell you the same thing. I told them, I said, as soon as I get water lines, I'll have the leak protection put back on. But right now, I see no sense in paying a leak protection when I didn't even have water lines. All I had was a meter down there. And I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I do understand you have to treat everybody the same, but we've had a really unusual circumstances. This is something I don't think you're gonna see happen here very often, and I hope it don't. But it's hit our pocketbook pretty hard. That's $3,600 almost in a water bill. And quite honestly, I don't have it. And I'm just asking y'all to please explain the 2 months of why we didn't have a bill and I paid for 4 months. And then I'm asking you if you can help us this one time with our water bill. Thank you for your time.
Tommy Marydale, got any comments to add?
I was only aware of the 1 month. I didn't know she had 4 months. But when she signed up for water, and that's what the insurance company looks at, she marked no on the coverage, and they're not going to cover it. And that's the other things I was aware of the one time, but not all the time. Said she came in, and I'm not saying she's misleading. She's just not aware of it, and I don't speak to something I'm not aware of. But the only one time we had an issue with a month there where our new customers that got put in the billing cycle did not go out to bill for whatever reason. It got fixed, but I wouldn't know where it was stretched more than a month or so. But those timelines I can't talk to. I only knew of one. The ladies in the office could tell more about that. I just know the insurance company, when she marks no, that's what they're going to look at on this contract. They're not going to cover no leak because it wouldn't have been paid.
How long were the lines in before?
The lines got installed in April. Give me a second, I've got a calendar book where I can.
Just in general, I'm just wondering.
It was in that. It was installed on, around the 25th of April is when the actual water lines was installed.
Did y'all pay the bill 4 months before that?
Yes, sir.
But the bill was not in there. No. It was
But I
in the
paid for it in
contract.
February.
I understand
I
that,
get that, I
but
just.
we have no way of knowing, you know, if it's in a
Right.
contractor's name, we don't know that
As
it's.
soon as service is paid for, the bill starts going out, whether hooked up or not. Minimal bill works that way.
When you caught the leak in,
My husband caught the leak on the
July,
8th day,
June.
8th day.
She went back in toward the last of May, 1st of June, to tell them to put the,
It was the 10th day of May is when I came in to pay the bill, and I had no bill. And then when I come in the 7th day of June, I had no bill again.
And we pulled the meter data, and we could see, of course, we don't know that until we don't know people have leaks till we read meters. But we went and pulled the data, and you could go back and see there was 7 days full of water running for 7 straight days.
I don't remember the other man's name. I think his name was Mr. Clarity, am I right?
He pulled.
He
the
pulled
data.
me a data sheet that showed the exact time it went to leaking.
You got one that's
I do.
exact, yeah.
Yeah, he gave me the exact time it went to leaking, and the exact time, I said 5:30 is when we cut it off, he said it was actually 5:36.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
mean,
close.
I knew it, I just knew about what time of day we were there, okay?
So it's only leaking that one.
I'm sorry.
Only leaking that, I missed that.
That one
Seven,
leak.
that one leak for 7 days caused that much water loss.
But it never surfaced, was what was weird about it.
That, it's really weird. I mean, like I said, I was down there every day, and you would have thought it's dry, and I've got even the weather at that time.
What was the exact source of the leak? Was it, and which side of the meter was it
It
on?
was on our side, it basically come off at the coupling right there, right as it goes
At
in
the
the meter.
meter?
Yeah.
right at the meter.
Contractor giving any feedback or ownership of that problem?
He just said there's no way to, to warrant if it was to come off just from the settling of the ground, on new construction, so he said that he didn't feel it would be his responsibility. If I could briefly speak, I know y'all are busy tonight, but I guess what we were, really concerned about is that we did have leak protection on the front end. I told her to make sure she got it as soon as the lines went in, so as soon as the lines went in, she went down there to get it put in and said, I need to get this put on, and they said, well, you don't have a bill. So she didn't really know what to do. She leaves, she comes back the next month, hey, I still need to put this leak protection on. Well, you still don't have a bill, and that was what was, I've got the highlighted bills from the ladies up front that shows we had leak protection the whole time it was with me. We had a conversation about making sure she had leak protection, and then no bills for 2 months threw us off to where she didn't have an opportunity, I guess, to put leak protection on. That was what the frustrating part was about it.
But nobody had taken the step to transfer the ownership of the meter
Yes,
from
we did.
you to
Yes.
them
Yes.
I did
And
in
it wasn't-
February.
prior to this leak?
Yes, sir.
Correct. That's what the issue is.
In February is
It
when
wasn't-
But at the time, there was no water hooked up, so when she changed it over, even though we were paying a minimal bill, we were just paying for a meter sitting there. There was no lines even run to it. So she said, well, I'm not gonna pay, just trying to be tight on budget. She said, I won't pay for that leak protection on the front end, but as soon as we get lines in, I'll pay it. She went up there, I said, we now have lines in, go get your leak protection. She come up and they said, well, you don't have a bill. She said, I need to get leak protection, well, you don't have a bill. And then she come back the next month, I still need leak protection. Well, you don't have a bill. That's kind of what's weird about it. That's the only thing that doesn't make any sense,
Did
because
they
we
say
were,
you didn't have an account when you came in?
No, ma'am, they just told me I didn't have a bill.
But
The
did you
girls
tell
had
them you wanted to put leak
Yes,
protection
ma'am.
on the account at
Yes,
that
ma'am.
time, and you didn't fill out a form?
Not that day, no ma'am, because I didn't have a bill.
We didn't have anything to fill out an account for, no bill.
See, I wanted to pay for the leak protection in May, when I came in May to pay the bill. And at that time, the girls told me I didn't have a bill to pay that leak protection on. But the first month, if you look back at the same printout he's got, in December, we was only charged for a leak protection, nothing more. And I put the bill, the first bill was not in our name, and I paid it in January. And then in February, when I came in, I paid the money to have it put in our name and the leak protection.
What records do we have in the office showing when the leak protection began?
Here,
The first time, sir?
When we first set it up,
when the
there was
contractor
leak
set it up,
protection.
he had it for several months in his name, he had it on there. But when she came in, I've got her contract right here, she signed no on the insurance, that's all I had to go by, and the insurance is gonna look at this, and they'll refuse to pay based on what they see here, cause the leak happened without insurance coverage on it. So the insurance won't cover it, simply, that's just not gonna happen. It don't matter who paid, once you cancel it, like any insurance, it's not gonna pay out on nothing.
Is there a time lag between the cancellation and the reinstatement?
I can ask them, but I don't think so.
Okay.
The only time that you can add leak protection in that kind of situation is when you have a bill?
Well, if you had a high bill, say like she had, and she come in here and want leak protection, you have to wait 30 days before you can get on there. That's a policy. You can't immediately, it won't kick in until 30 days after that point.
And you have to show proof of or evidence that the leak or whatever caused it has been repaired,
There's a
and
process.
then they'll start the process over at that designated time.
The customer actually calls that 1-800 number, they go through, the insurance company deals with it. They just call us for your records. They look at they get your receipts and all that goes to them. That's nothing that we fool with anymore. So they would show proof to them that they fixed it, and so on and so forth, and they'll pay the claim if it's valid.
Okay, and I wanna be sure I'm getting this down right. When you came in to pay your bill, you were told because you did not have an amount due, you could not sign up for the leak protection.
She said I couldn't pay for the leak protection. She didn't say I couldn't sign up, she still couldn't pay for it. I was able to sign up when I come in here in July.
Board members, other thoughts? Questions?
I'm on the part that I think we're on it, because she tried to come in and sign up, and she tried to come in and pay. She didn't sign up, though, did she?
See, that's
Right.
That's the tricky.
You don't have a record that it is on her account.
I need time to confirm what she's saying about those other
Okay.
I
incidents.
don't mean any disrespect though, but, I mean, we're not 100% sure that the ladies at the counter didn't explain it correctly or completely, or
That's what
that
I'm
they
saying.
didn't, that they may be misunderstood.
Well, I
That's
need to
the first
confirm
time I
these
have
other,
heard
because I only knew the one
I want to
instance.
first and
Yeah.
foremost say this, everybody at that counter has been nothing but very nice to me and been very understanding to me. And if I've misunderstood them or if they misunderstood me, I apologize up front. But these people have been great to me to understand that I've just had a mess.
And I don't mean to imply that
No,
you're
I
saying
understand that.
anything.
I
I'm
do.
not- I'm
I
not
get
saying
it.
that they're
I
not
just wanted somebody.
competent, we need to identify the root of the cause and make sure it doesn't happen again, because it's very possible that it could happen again.
Can you tell me this? And this is one of the questions that just keeps lingering in my mind, and I'm sorry, but I just don't understand. How come I had 4 months that I paid bills, and I put the leak protection in there and paid it all those months, and then for 2 months I didn't get nothing?
I'm asking the same question.
I mean, I
When
don't mean
you
no harm,
changed-
but that.
But the
that-
meter
It
wasn't
went
in
to
her
a-
name those
It wasn't
4
in her
months.
name,
It's
so
in the
when you
contract,
start a
right?
new service, depending on what day of the month you come in, see, we read meters like on the 10th, you could have had if you signed up in May,
Mhm.
you might not have gotten a bill
Till the next one.
until, you wouldn't have gotten a bill in that cycle, but in the next cycle. So there could be 6 weeks that you didn't get a bill.
How long does it take to transfer, would it take to transfer it from his name to ours?
The transfer of the name is not the problem, we read the meters once a month. So if you went today and changed it to your name, we would get an end reading for him, and we would start you, but we would not start billing you. We would get a beginning reading, but we wouldn't bill you when we read meters on the 10th. We would wait until the next cycle to actually get you a bill.
The reason I'm asking that is she came in March the 8th,
7.
or March the 7th,
Okay.
and had it transferred from his name to ours.
Okay.
So that was 2 months that we paid leak protection, that it should have been in our name.
If you signed up on March the 8th, see,
Seven.
we would have probably read meters about the 10th. So you wouldn't have gotten a bill due in April. Your
What's the
first
date
bill
on that
would have been-
application that they said?
3/6 is the date of this
Yeah.
application, and.
But you've marked no for leak
You mark no
protection
for leak protection on this clearly.
on
You signed
March the
date.
7th.
March the 6th.
6, okay, I'm
Then I
sorry.
paid it though for 2 more months. I've got the bills where I
Where
paid.
where the final bill came through on the contractor's name.
He gets a final bill.
See,
I paid all of them, and I'm sorry, maybe
I
that's the
where your
reason I'm
confusion
lost,
is.
okay?
She may have been getting the bills, but it was in his final bill that he showed.
Right.
So.
And the leak protection goes by the name
Name
of the customer that the meter was set in. And then for those months, it was set in the name of the contractor rather than the homeowner, but the homeowner was paying the bills.
Yes, they were.
the final bill you paid in the contractor's name, the end reading date on the bill should have been the 6th or the 7th, one of those 2 days. And then would pick up, your reading would have began on the 6th or the 7th and gone forward. You look on the card, it shows,
Could I
know.
at least
reading
clarify
dates.
timeline a little bit? We understand that it was in my name and she was paying it, so
Okay.
we understand for sure that it then changed into her name March the 6th. The frustrating part is that, no secret, they're frugal. They dot I's and cross T's, and they make sure every dime they can save, they save. And so we had a discussion about leak protection at that time, and she said, well, I'm gonna mark no, but let me know when the lines are in, because I don't wanna pay for leak protection when it's not there. And it may be $3 or $4, and that seems minimal, but to her, that means something. And so when I said we got lines in, she came in and saw the lines were in, she came back down here. That's where our frustration is, and that's where we felt the ball was dropped, was when she came back and said, I now have lines, I need leak protection, you don't have a bill. Come back the next month, I still need leak protection, still don't have a bill. That's where we're frustrated.
That's
you
part
know.
we need to confirm, but I can't
That's
say
the
anything
first-
about that.
Right,
We've
that's
heard
really
that
the
part.
discussion, or that's the issue.
Yeah.
Is that the attempt of trying to get it, and them keep telling us no, you can't, you don't have a bill, and then we finally, we unfortunately do have a leak, and it's a sizable leak, and now they're saying, sorry, you checked no. Well, we did for that 3 weeks, but then we were trying to get it and couldn't. So
When did the water lines go in again? What date?
April the 25th.
It's the part that I don't understand about it. Why did you check no?
Like I was saying earlier, I know this sounds like I'm a real tightwad, but I am. When I was building this house, I was doing my best to save every dollar I could. I was paying almost $90 a month between here and Macon County for water, and didn't even have water lines at this house. So I'll be honest with you, I thought that was a couple of dollars I could save till I got water lines.
We didn't understand why we would pay leak protection on lines that were not there. You understand what I mean? I mean,
That's hard to understand for me.
yeah. We didn't.
Once the lines was installed, yes, sir, we wanted the leak
Would-
protection back on. Because that's something this county offers a leak protection. A lot of counties do not.
Right, I understand.
And you came into the office and.
Yes, ma'am. Every time I've paid the bill, I've come into the office.
Who you spoke to?
Honey, I've talked to each one of the girls at the counter at different points in time, so as far as what day I talked to which one, no, sir, I'm not gonna tell you something I don't know, because I've talked to Miss Frida, Miss Bobby, and is her name Lolly? Laura, Miss Laura. I've talked to all 3 of those ladies, and I've talked to Mr. Clarity, and I've talked to Mr. McFarland. I feel like I wore the door out down here, and I don't mean to. We're not that type of people. We just want to pay our bills and go on. But I ain't gonna lie to you, this one here hurts when you just built a new house.
Tommy, is it policy to pay leak protection when you ain't got a line in?
It's active service.
Yes.
It's,
It was active,
It
that's all.
goes with setting the meter
Goes
and
with setting the
starting
meter.
minimal service.
But do you have to sign for it to get the leak protection when you first get the meter, I guess is my question?
If you had signed yes on this contract, you'd have been covered, but
No.
you're not.
you can get it at any time.
Get it at
You-
any
you can
time.
go
No,
back-
no, ma'am, I guess my question is, would the contractor even know that he had a
Once the
leak
tap was
protection
set.
on there? Once the tap's set? Would he have known then? Did he
He
sign
signed
it?
up for it.
He
He had to
signed up
sign
for it?
for it.
Okay. I'm
That's
just
the reason I stressed it to you when
It's
your
a-
lines are in, because I knew she didn't
It's
sign.
an
I knew she didn't check it.
opt-in
That's correct. I knew she didn't check it.
add-on, so you have to request to add it.
That's right.
And then if you discontinue it, you have to opt out to discontinue it too.
I did do that. I mean, I'll tell you quite honestly, I did. Like I said, I opted out till I got lines.
Yeah.
When do you recall what date you first came in to make that adjustment
Which adjustment, and I'm
to
sorry.
get the leak protection put back on?
It was just this month in June. The first time I come back, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The first time I come in was May the 10th, I think. Let me look at my stuff and I can tell you, because I wrote
What,
down
what was the date of the first when you first discovered the leak?
June the
June
8th.
8th.
Yes, sir, it was May the 10th.
So I'd have to do math, but that might be less than the 30 days that it would have applied. Anyway, did I hear you have to wait 30 days for the?
I think it's instant.
It's instant once you sign up.
It would have been on a
If-
transfer,
On
wouldn't
a
it?
transfer, when she signed up, she would have been covered right then, but if you come in with a leak, you have to wait 30 days to get on.
But May 10th, they didn't
We didn't have.
believe they had a leak.
Right.
So the question Todd's asking is, if she signed up on May 10th,
When would have coverage began?
would it have been covered because if the leak
Well,
was
if it had
discovered
no
on
prior
June
leak, wouldn't it have begun then?
No, because she didn't sign, it wasn't an initial sign up for service, right?
You know,
I,
it all depends on this form that she asked you about. If you'd signed that form, that's what it would go by.
but would the insurance company, does she have to wait 30 days?
It's a 30-day wait period. If you have a leak, you can't.
If you don't sign up to begin with.
That's, I'm not if an active
Okay.
leak, but yeah,
Okay, do you have to wait 30 days from the time you sign up?
not
Would you-
outside of a direct transfer.
Right, yeah, that's what I'm trying, yeah.
Mhm.
So that would have been
Really?
June the 10th,
There's
right?
no waiting period for the initial sign up. The only waiting period is if you went
If you
off,
have
had a leak, and you had a leak, and you tried to get on there to get it covered, they're not gonna cover it. Because there's a previous history there.
I might be a little slow on this one, but
Maybe I'm not understanding.
if I,
She
if
signed
I,
up March 26th.
hang on, if I,
No, she signed out.
Oh, but
if I,
That's her contract that she
March.
signed, yes.
But she came back in May, and had she signed up for it May the 10th, her
Would she
leak
be-
occurred June the 8th, would she have been covered?
If it was, paperwork was done and it was signed, it shouldn't be.
So the only wait is after you have a leak.
The only wait period is if you have a leak, you have to wait 30 days
Okay,
before
so
they'll pick
she
up
should-
coverage.
Okay,
That-
okay,
that's
that's
what
yeah,
applies.
that's what I was trying to clarify.
We
Okay.
kinda need to confirm all these dates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Board, I'm gonna make a recommendation at this juncture. Now that it has risen to our attention, let's let our staff and the Dyers work together in the next short amount of days and see if they can reconcile some dates, determine what transpired, what happened, get a little bit clearer picture, and then if action is still needed by this group, we can address it.
Oh, okay with that.
Well, I guess no.
They're still gonna have a bill.
I'm paying almost 400 I will this month. Now, I will say this, I wanna thank y'all for that. They give us a little reprieve for a little while of paying installments. I mean, at least we've got that option that they're working with us on, but that's still,
Because
we're
like
paying-
last month, I paid almost
Almost
$300.
We can postpone your installment until we figure out more detail what needs to be done.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, like I said, we just built this new house, and we're incurring a lot of fees, you know, that cutting off lights here, cutting on water here, you know what I'm saying? Double water bill, double light bills,
He said they'll hold off on it.
and I appreciate that, I do.
Until we
I really
determine
hope
what
y'all
needs to be done.
can help us, I really do.
The 2 months that you come in to pay a water bill and you didn't have one, was your intention to sign up for the
Yes, sir.
leak protection then?
On May the 10th, it was my intention to sign up because I had water lines. Just like I told them when I stopped it, when I get water lines, I will have it put back on my bill. And that would have been May the 10th when I came in.
And you discovered the leak when?
June the 8th.
June 8th.
June the 8th.
It started leaking according to your records, June the 1st, at like 12 o'clock in the day, and we found it at 5:30 at night on June the 8th.
That's still over 30 days.
Shouldn't have a 30-day wait on that one. That's a particular situation.
No, you don't wait on it at all.
That should be.
I think the whole thing here is where she didn't get a bill. So therefore, she couldn't sign up for leak protection because she didn't have a bill.
What was the month you said you didn't get a bill on?
I didn't get a bill, hon, for May and for June.
Because of the transfer, is that what it was?
I'll be honest with you, I was listening to the lady speak, and listening to her, I think that's why, but I'm not gonna swear to that until I
You
understand
put,
that right.
put it in your name in
I put it in my name on February the 7th.
March.
March the 6th.
March the 6th.
March
I'm sorry, March the 7th. March the 7th is when I paid to have it put in our name. I apologize.
I think you came in March the 6th and came back March the 7th.
I come back several
Yeah,
times
I
because I think $75 was eating my crawl. I ain't gonna, ask him, I called him and I said, we got a problem.
Other questions? Let's let them do just a little bit more research before we react on this. That's gonna be my suggestion.
I like it.
Okay.
Mr. McFarland, did you have my phone number that you could call me if you have any questions with me?
It should be on your customer record.
You should have. If you want to give it to me.
Yes, ma'am, it's 615-388-6498. Now, sometimes through the day, it's hard for me to answer my phone at work.
Okay.
What is the best time to call you?
After 2:30. And I appreciate y'all's time. I just needed some answers tonight. I thank you.
Very sorry all that went down.
It's bad,
That
but
can
just moved to
sting.
a county and already got a name.
That can sting.
And we don't need to have,
Listen, you
I
need-
promise, we just want to live here in peace. I'm so much closer to work, and we love that too.
We've been in the house 3 weeks and already paying more water bill than probably some that's been in the house for 10 years.
Thank y'all very much, I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Do you want to require a motion on that, or you just think it's all right, just let them do it?
It'd probably be good to put a motion in the minutes, yes.
So I make a motion, we continue this issue until the next water board meeting and give the staff time to investigate that and work with the property owners.
Is there a second?
Second.
Take one of them, Mary Dale, doesn't matter to me. May need Craig to prove he's here.
He's already approved it.
I got my one in.
Other
I'm
discussion.
trying to get the first one. Get on out of it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Okay. Next, Kendra.
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, good evening. Most of you all know me. If you don't, I'm Kendra Maddox. My mother owns Villa Hayes. We've had family business for 55 years. Lived here my whole life. I'm 39 years old. We were out of town with sick family end of May or end of June, July. He's been in the hospital 13 weeks. Then we leave town for the 4th. Mail hadn't been checked. Check the mail when we get home the weekend, and I see my water bill, and it was $296. I knew that that was not correct. On Monday, I believe was the 8th, I called, spoke with Laura, tried to call Servline, they were closed. This was in the afternoon, evening. Then I believe the 9th, my dates may be off. I believe it was the 9th that there was a work order put in, or on the 8th, and they done it on the morning of the 9th to make sure my meter wasn't running. My leak was fixed back in June, I could give an exact date, 12th, somewhere around there. Made a claim with Servline. Everything, all that was hashed out. Part of the problem is the dates, because it was close to the time that the bill was due. I asked Laura, what is it I need to do, because $296 is gonna come out of my account because I'm on bank draft. And that's just something I feasibly can't do. Well, the bank drafts had already been processed for the 9th to come out on the 10th, and I understood that. What, do you have any other suggestions? You know, I have a family, an extra $220 to come out, and she also explained to me it would take 2 to 3 months for Servline to credit me that back. And it would be credited on my water bill, not actually money in my pocket that I need for my family. I said, well, I can't do that. That's not gonna work. After our discussion, we came to the point of I could have a stop pay done on the bank draft or close the checking account. I didn't want to close the checking account. I use it for our livelihood. So I contacted the bank, the financial institution that I worked for 8 years, and I've been gone for 5. I requested a stop pay be put on a bank draft. The very next day, my husband comes and actually signs the form to cancel all bank drafts up here at the office. It might have been the 11th he done that, but the stop pay was done on the 9th. The draft did not come out. We were contacted again by Servline. Our bill was to be paid was $80, which we paid. And then I received this letter. I'd like to read it if you don't mind. To whom it may concern, and I'm going to read it verbatim. We have a returned bank draft at Hartsville Trousdale Water Department in the amount $296.36 of plus a $30 service charge. Total due $30. The amount have to be added back to you account, $296.36. A Servline claim been filed. Please take care of this matter as soon as possible. If not taken care of, in 5 working days from this date above, service will be terminated in my address. Well, first of all, it wasn't proofread, and the literacy on it is not good at all. I don't think the $30 I'm responsible for. You know, when I called explaining to Laura, she and I came into an agreement, or we didn't come to an agreement, and it's suggestion from her as well as myself, and that was the only option we had because the bank draft had already been processed. She said, well, if you called me a couple hours ago, I could have stopped it, but I can't now. Okay? So, as I said, I paid the draft, or paid the stop pay, get this letter, and now I'm at a predicament to where, you know, if I don't pay the $30, my water's gonna be cut off in the morning. I emailed Mr. McFarland yesterday afternoon around 3:36, 9:30 this morning, I called, he wasn't in the office, I called his cell phone. I asked him, do you have a moment? He says, I'm with a tech, can I call you back? Absolutely. Calls me back, I missed the call, I'll call him back, discuss it with him. I'm told, it is my responsibility, I will pay it, he will not take it off. I told him I strongly disagree. That I don't think that that is my responsibility. You know, I was told there was neglect on my part because my bill had been increasing for 3 months. And I strongly expressed to him that that was not neglect on my part, that for the past 7 to 8 years, he said he had looked at my record, and if he looks past 7 or 8 years, that specific bill starting late spring, early summer, goes up every year because I have a 33,000 gallon swimming pool. So when I got the first bill that was a little higher, it's been that way for years. The second bill was around, it had went up again, and I thought, this is kind of strange. But here's also the other catchy part is my pool has only been filled up 1 time in 8 years. So we never drain it. We just have to, and we don't cover it, so it gets rainwater throughout fall and winter. So when we open it, we don't have to add much water. But for 8 years, it's always went up, you know, that time of the year. And I've just let that go. And then when we got the one for that completely doubled for $296.36, which like I did not know that the toilet flapper being up would run my bill up that much, but it did. And that happened the weekend of Father's Day weekend, actually, I believe it was, is when it was replaced. So.
When you terminated the bank draft
Yes, sir.
around July 10,
July the 9th.
did that cause the payment to stop for that water bill?
Yes, sir. It was a stop pay for that water bill. I was instructed to only pay $80 for that bill. That was my
Your
average.
normal and regular payment method had been bank draft.
For 2 months, I think.
So that caused your water bill, it wasn't paid for that month.
$80 was paid for that. Now, and that it was returned per the bank as a stop pay, not an insufficient fund.
Same difference.
Same difference.
Questions? Thoughts?
So what you're wanting is to get out of paying the $30, is that right?
That's it.
Is that what I'm trying to understand?
I worked at the financial institution, and there are codes that you encode things for a stop pay for insufficient funds. And by reading the guidelines and the regulations for the Hartsville Water Department online, my account's also going to be flagged for 12 months as insufficient funds. And I don't agree with that either. There was no way I was going to be able to wait 3 months for a $220 credit to go on my bill.
Well, that's not exactly how it works.
That's what I was told. I mean, you know, that's what
It
Laura
may take
told
them
me.
that long to pay, but your account would have been flagged as a served line account, and we would have known the amount. You wouldn't have been charged penalties and interest on the balance. We
Right, and
would
I
have-
was never even, when Laura, we discussed, you know, options, what do you suggest I do, was never informed that there would be any other fee for that it would be sent back and you would have another charge, because I had to pay $35 at the bank to even stop the stop pay.
I asked you this, and I believe you told me no, but you can answer again if you like. I asked you, did you say that Laura said that you should do a stop payment?
I said, that's not what I said. I said, after our discussion, we
That's how you,
discussed it, and Laura told me 2 options. and that was close the account or do a stop pay. If I did not want that
She
to
told
come out.
me, this is her verbatim words, she said she did not tell you that.
Okay, well,
Okay. I asked her straight up, I said, Laura, did you tell her, advise her to stop payment? And she said no. So, I mean, that's all I can go by is what my people tell me. I mean, I'm
right, and well,
I'm
you
not
know,
saying she's wrong, I'm just saying that's what my person told me.
and she told me she sent this letter as well.
She fixes those letters, yes.
Questions?
And you received the same charge that you would on a bad check at the bank. So well, you did get a fee based to you for the stop payment. Just like a bad check would do.
And that's a policy.
And this is
It
why-
actually, the stop pay is good for 1 year. And I have a copy of that. The stop pay is good for 1 year. You have a bad check return, that's good for that moment in time. Your funds are insufficient and you're charged a fee for that one moment. The stop pay is good for a calendar year.
Well, banks have policies and we have policies, so it's two separate entities.
But the reason you stopped paying, excuse me, was that the company that we have insured was gonna take a certain amount of time in order to get your money back to you, or it had to be worked out in water bills in the future, is that right? Do I understand you right?
And I didn't have $220 and I had the money in other places, but there was no way to, it's on a bank draft. And if it comes out, then I'm gonna be charged. And the only bill I was to pay is $80, not the $296.
And the claim paperwork was come through it was dated the 10th, not the 8th or 9th. So it actually was dated for the 10th, that's the day the bill's due.
It is.
So it ain't the 8th or 9th, which you said was.
Well, I've got phone records that I called on the 8th, I called on the 9th, and the stop pay, I've got it on my phone right here, the stop pay was done on the 9th. That's the day it was done. Whatever day the claim
That's
was
the
done.
day we have to send the file.
Right,
to
and
the
Laura
bank to
said
get
if
them
you would have called me
processed.
a couple of hours ago, and I said, well,
We have
I've
so
been
many,
busy, I have
we have
children, I
at least
couldn't.
a day or two headway to get that file to the bank before they have to have it. Before it won't come out on time if we don't send it at a certain time.
I called on
Plus, it
Monday,
takes
right,
a while for Surfline to notify us that there's been a claim made. If you make a claim,
We don't
You
see
know, we
that
can't.
until later, till the claim's made. We'll get an email following up with all the particulars. It's asking us for information about the account, it's asking whoever received that. And when that's how we react to Surfline when they send that email out. They said, this customer has asked they have made a claim, and they'll start asking for their information. They'll have an email go out to us for that.
What bothers me is the way they were going to justify the difference there. Are we gonna be looking at this every month we come in here because Surfline is, saying, well, you gotta trade it out with us or whatever?
Well, something we've done, in the meantime, we've let a customer pay their average bill with no late fee charges or anything until that settlement comes in, just to help them out, because, you know, that might get a little hairy sometime. I've often wondered if we shouldn't just make them pay the bill up front and get.
Well, I mean, I think that's pretty generous for us to
It is
essentially carry
generous
a
for
loan
us to carry a loan
for
for
the
them until
customers.
that's, and we've done that for our customers. We let them we look at their average bill and we say, you pay this, there's gonna be no fees, there's gonna be no
How
penalties.
long does it take Surfline to pay a
Well,
bill?
it's like an insurance thing, it takes about 2 months to get 2 to 3 months
It's
sometimes.
ridiculous.
Sometimes they'll call us back because they'll talk to the customer or the customer we have. And maybe something not adding up to what's going on with the account or and it takes longer sometimes because they got questions. And they'll come back to us and want more information. And we sometimes have to do that to answer more questions and maybe even look a little deeper into their account. They see something questionable. That's what sometimes makes the time frame longer, because they're gonna do what they're supposed to do, and they might be one that's pretty simple, straightforward. They may see one they'll go back and look at previous usage to make sure there wasn't a previous leak somewhere. they'll go back and look at that stuff, so.
What is the process for that? If I get a sudden surprise bill, the day I see the bill, I come in and say, hey, I got this surprise bill. I don't have $1,000. Can I pay my minimum 34 while serve line works it out? Or
That's what we've been doing, their minimum, whatever their minimum works out to be.
Mhm.
Let them pay that, like I say, no penalty,
Mhm.
no late fees, no charges on them. And until they'll come in, they'll send us a check for their loss.
Mhm.
And that's when it gets wrote off then.
Did,
But
did
they're
you
paying their minimum.
did you ever talk to anybody about paying the minimum when you got the
That's-
bill?
That was not an option for me. I was out of town from June 28th until the weekend after the 4th. So I didn't receive my water bill. And when I made the phone call, it was on Monday the 8th. And was advised by Laura that I needed to call back, that they were gonna put a work order in here and then call back to make the claim with, Servline. Because the bank draft had been initiated on the 9th. And I was an hour or two late making the phone call. Was
Okay.
told to pay my minimum, which is around $80, which is what we did. But there was not an option for me to pay that versus, I asked Laura, is there anything, you know, can you all reimburse me that and let me pay the $80? You know, what is it we can do? And there was no option at all, other than close the account or do a stop payment. That was it.
And you said you did pay the $80?
Yes, sir.
What date did you pay that on?
The 11th. My husband came on the 11th. I was at VA Nashville with my uncle, and he came and signed a stop pay. Well, not stop pay. Cancel bank draft form, and paid the $80.
So the insurance company's basically done everything except the $30 is what you're complaining about.
That would not be a
No,
part
No,
of
that's
their
not part,
policy
that's
anyway.
not part of the insurance, no,
No,
sir.
it's not, I understand that.
Since I've worked here, I've never give anybody back the $30 for an insufficient fund. I just treat everybody the same.
And
this-
I understand that, and
This
my,
is still the policy, and an insufficient fund is also identifies, even though it may not word exactly in this document, in our document, the insufficient, when it says return check / insufficient fund policy, that means any insufficient fund.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter, it talks about a check, cause that's the most common thing you get an insufficient fund on, is a paid check. And in my history of utilities, I've never had anybody stop payment on a bank draft. So that's the first time for me. I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm just saying it's the first time it's ever happened.
I guess if I'd have been given another option through the water department when I called, I wouldn't have done that. If
But
there
at
was,
that point, we didn't have one. I mean,
Yeah.
you waited
ACH
too late,
had already
it was
been
a
sent.
time, yeah.
and you know, I don't have any control over when God says that my uncle's gonna lay in the hospital 13 weeks, or that when we're out of town, you know, that I didn't have my water bill in my hand. I didn't have control over getting my mail for those X amount of days to try to handle the matter prior to the 8th. I couldn't. If it'd been any, you know,
Sounds like a victim of circumstance.
several things, yes. If it'd been in February, everything would be fine.
Board, questions, comments? Direction?
Y'all didn't tell me it was gonna be all this when I signed up.
Surprise, surprise.
Reason for that.
All jokes aside, and again, I say this with all due respect, I mean, no offense to anybody. This is 2 instances tonight where there's some question of miscommunication at the front counter. And I understand where you're coming from, you have to go off what your people tell you, I have to do it every day. Probably bad of me, but I just always assume I'm getting bad information, so I go behind them and double check everything they say. But I don't know what to do about the $30. We got an irate customer. At the end of the day, we're a service industry, and know they can't go get the water somewhere else, but we still need to try to keep people as happy as we can. But then again, we got written policies, but I just think maybe we need to look at some of our processes maybe at some point and make sure everybody's aware of how to handle situations, and if they're not sure how to handle it, then they need to kick it further up the totem pole.
And if I could say, I mean, and I guess I understand there's policies. I worked at the bank for 8 years. I get policies. We have to answer to an inspector every 6 months. I understand policies and procedures. However, I also know the insides on banking as far as a stop pay. And like I said, you know, and it even shows it's dated on here that it's good for 1 entire year. So that's not like being stamped with an insufficient fund. That's 2 totally different things. That even flags your account at the bank. You are red marked on your checking accounts. You know, you have other issues that arise by having insufficient funds.
You talked to them at the bank about it?
I did, and they told me that they processed it as a stop pay. And that's what it was returned as, a stop pay, not an insufficient fund.
That's their routine charge for that. And I guess they have some trouble doing it, and have to pay a little bit to get it done. Probably pay somebody to do it.
Is that what you're looking at? Is that the policy that would be?
See, here's the contract, or the bank contract, draft contract you signed. Just authorizing us to do the debit. It also says in the paragraph, says with authorization is to remain in full force in effect until company has received written notification that it needs to be canceled. So that, you know, that bank draft's just like handing us a check. You promised payment. And when she canceled that payment, we did not get payment that day when it came out of the bank on the 10th to us. So that, in our policy thoughts, that was not getting paid. So, I mean, that's just how it looks. That's how it is. It's just like.
Right, if I was here on July the 2nd and Glenn Dillahay wasn't dying in the hospital, I could have handled this back 10 days prior to the 8th, but that wasn't feasible for me. I couldn't do that.
Did they tell you it's gonna cost $30 at the bank?
No,
The $30 is our fee.
yeah, the
Not
$30
much.
was, yes,
We charge
yes.
the customer.
Oh, okay.
And now following under this criteria for bad checks, which is not a stop pay. It says guidelines for bad checks. I'm gonna have, the account is flagged with a non-sufficient fund return date and remains on the account for 12 months here with the water department.
Questions, recommendations?
Is there anything we can do about removing that flag for the bad check flag? Is that internal? The 1 year bad check flag.
If a person submits 3 bad checks, we don't no longer take checks from them. So.
But not just one.
Not just one.
With stop payment or whatever, we don't get paid on, you know,
I've
whatever
had a water
the
bill
issue.
since I was 19 years old in this county and have never had a bad check, never had anything returned.
Just as far as what she was referring to for the account flagged for a bad check, is that a thing on one payment? Is
I
that
don't know.
maybe I misheard what you meant with the account was flagged as.
Yeah, it says the water, my water bill, it says account is flagged because it's under the guidelines for bad checks.
I think.
Oh, that's a policy thing.
Okay, I
Here.
think.
Oh, okay, it's not, you didn't get notice that you
No,
are
but I'm
flagged.
going to have that
Okay,
because if
okay.
I'm following under this criteria,
I think that's just on our file.
That's on our file.
it is, that's exactly, I know that. That's on the water department
So I
file.
don't think,
It's not a bank issue.
No, it's not a bank issue
Yeah,
at all,
yeah.
no.
yeah, it's not gonna affect your credit. I don't.
No, it's not gonna affect my credit, it's just I don't want it there.
I'm very sorry all this happened to you. I'm kind of inclined to say that we can't jump through hoops and policies every time we get paid. If we don't get paid, we have an automatic fee that's charged. I do know that there was some attempt to work out the payment and everything. I don't think you should be, if we pop up with a red flag on the account that you all of a sudden can't write checks. I don't think
That wouldn't affect it at all.
I don't think that should be a flag on your account, but that's kind of my thoughts on the matter. We can't. The policy is there that if we don't get paid, whatever the manner of not being paid was, whether it was a stop check, closing the account, or anything else, the $30 fee is there. It's a policy. It's known.
And it says a $30 non-sufficient funds return fee. That's what it says. And it wasn't a non-sufficient fund return fee. It wasn't that. That's not what it was.
Well, the whole thing is, she was out of town and she couldn't be here. We can't help that. I mean, I feel sorry for the fact of it too, but I just feel like it's something that we can't help. If everybody didn't pay on time, there'd be every excuse in the world that they come in here with. And I'm not saying that's an excuse. I know you said you had sickness, but I think you're just a victim of circumstance, and I don't see nothing we can do with it unless you want to throw your policies out the door.
Yeah, I agree. And I am very sorry. I know it's.
Well, I mean, I can get an attorney, and because the way it works, I've already talked to two. The way that it works, it's not, and a stop pay is a stop pay. It's not a non-sufficient.
I talked to our attorney too, and he said it's the same as a bad check, so.
Well, I think it would be.
I guess I'm looking from the financial side. You know, I worked at the bank, and I know what a stop pay is, and
But
what
it's not going to hurt you financially in any way.
It's not, but I just feel I'm not responsible for the $30.
Well, according to the policy, I feel like you are, even though you were out of town, you can't help it. If everybody come in here with that situation, we'd be sitting here around the wall probably every time we meet.
Well, I would hope not. And the only other thing I need to say is that the ladies at the front desk need to be more informed of what the procedures are, what the rules are, what fees I was going to incur, because I wasn't told that at all. And when Laura told me after we discussed things, the two options I had, and that's what I did. And they also need to be, if Laura sent it, a little more literate about mailing out formal letters.
So you may very well be right about that, but I feel like.
It looks very bad on the water department.
I don't feel like they have wronged you, is what I'm trying to say.
And I'm glad that you feel that
I think you're a
way.
victim of circumstance with a policy here that just happens to apply to you. Probably never happen again in your lifetime. I really feel like our hands are tied in this situation.
It's a recommendation for some form of action.
I recommend that we follow our policy. I feel like we got to, even though I know it doesn't give this young lady any help, but I feel like we have to follow it because you can't start setting examples that's not it's not concurrent with what you,
Sets a bad precedent
Yeah,
that'll,
it's
that'll
very-
open us up to a lot more liability
Yeah,
from
that's exactly
all
right.
10,000 of our customers.
if it was $20,000, it'd be different. $30
I doubt
is
it.
not
It
gonna make you or
wouldn't,
break you.
20,000 wouldn't be any different anyway.
It would be to me, if I was in your position.
It would be to me financially, but as a board, it wouldn't be any different. I mean, if there's a policy, it's a policy. It doesn't matter if it's $20,000 or $30.
I just
If
feel
that's
like-
what you're saying, you just contradicted that. You know, if it's 20,000 or 30, if there's a policy, it's a policy.
I feel like
Mine was
the policy is in
$220.
place, and I make a motion that we support the policy.
Second.
There is a motion on the floor that we support the policies in place. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It is approved.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
time, and please be a little kinder to your customers, Mr. McFarland.
If I could follow up on that, I would say maybe we need to reword instead of saying return from the bank for non-sufficient funds, maybe just put some kind of failure to pay or, I know there's a more correct term on it, under negotiable interest, but right now it's escaping me. That way you don't have somebody come in and say, well, it specifically says non-sufficient funds, but the fact of the matter is the bank returned it unpaid and that's what
On my
created the
bank
issue.
statement, it says chargebacks.
Right.
Maybe
So
we
just
use,
maybe,
change the wording to chargebacks from the.
well, I would just put, I would probably just add it or chargebacks or just something to kind of cover all your bases on that. Or all our bases, I
Or
guess.
a little more generic terminology.
Yeah,
You're looking for a smoother way to say it, and I agree with you. I think you should.
yeah, I know that, I know.
Something a little more all-encompassing, so we're not
Right.
splitting hairs.
Yeah.
You know, with technology, what if we don't get
With the
Venmo'd our money or PayPal our money or
Did she,
whatever
did
else?
she actually pay our, did she pay just the regular bill that she had? Is that
She
what
played it
They
very
made,
well. Yeah.
And it was a day late,
I
right?
think she was asking, did she pay any late fee or is it just?
She didn't pay any late fee on that, did she?
No.
Her fee was
How much is
incurred
it?
because the original bank draft
Right.
was
How much was the, how much is our
not
late fee?
approved.
45.
45.
How much?
45.
Our late fee is $45 and you're late after one day, right?
After the 20th.
Oh, after 20, I was gonna say, maybe.
They're due on the 10th and you've got a 10-day grace period.
You got to
Okay.
pay a
You got 10
10%.
days to pay after the 10th. After the 10th, it's late fee and you get shut off for non-payment. That's when we do
At
shut off.
20th.
After
That's, yeah. See, after the 10th, it's a 10%.
10% fee for
Then after-
getting a late charge.
After that, you got
10.
till the
We send
20th.
out late notices.
Yeah.
No.
No.
I know, me and Jerry Gunn went round and round over that.
Well, it's on your bill or,
10%
you know, it's
after the 10th.
posted
I
on.
know, it just,
After the 10th.
Courtesy.
Then $45 on top of that, on the 20th.
So technically, it's not all the $30, you know.
hey, they got
in
him
another way.
with
She didn't have to pay the 10% because she paid on the 11th.
But it wasn't a late fee issue, it was the return
You go
check
out.
Basically,
fee. It's a
return check fee.
it's a separate
Late
fee
fee.
that's
One of
charged.
those.
I'm just talking about the.
You're saying it should be $29.60 versus
Oh,
$30.
okay.
Just trying to find some positive.
Yeah.
And I hate the situation, and
I do too.
I mean, it's terrible, but I think we made the right
I
decision.
think at the end of the day, we
That's what I
develop
say.
and pass policies so that they can apply across the board to all of our customers.
You got to treat it.
And if
one
you
way.
start picking and taking exception, then
It's
your
like
policies
precedent.
don't mean much to you
You're
anymore.
setting a precedent that's gonna kick you in the rear.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening to them and thank you for your recommendations. And if there's no other discussion on those items, then we'll jump back on agenda.
No, I would add, I agree with Mr. White, we might wanna look at our policies there in regards to if an issue like comes up like this about more
Well,
training, whatever, about
Yeah.
here's what it should be going forward.
To help out on what Laura told her, I mean, she came out better if Laura didn't say anything. I mean, if
Well-
Laura, I mean, because
Laura, I don't,
Laura didn't say those things because that's what Laura told me, you know. that's the conflict here. I had two different stories, and I just could, that's the way it is.
I'd have to.
Actually, she told the ladies a separate story from her issue with the pool that she told me. She said she did not she told them she didn't she didn't fill a swimming pool. And I'm assuming that's because she was asking for the leak adjustments.
I didn't have.
But then she told me she did fill a swimming pool, so there was conflict even in the story between my employees and her telling them.
The
Two
leak
employees,
was.
yes.
Oh.
See, there's a conflict in the story, and I always, it's hard to determine the right and wrong when you've got conflict in the story.
Well, that's why we have policy and
Yes.
stick to the policy and.
And I wouldn't
we
say
can't worry
that
about hearsay.
the lady's wrong in what she's saying. I'm just saying the stories didn't
Sure.
match.
Sure.
And that doesn't mean our employees don't make mistakes. They sure do.
Everybody's human.
Everybody's
On both
human.
sides. I mean, it is what it is.
All right, next on your agenda would be your financials. They were sent to you a few days ago. Tommy Marydale, if you want to make any highlights or draw our attention to any parts of it. Your summary is pretty much your first page that you were given. It may be the easiest for you to decipher and understand.
I'll kill that.
I think I ask this every month, but this is year end. Is that?
This is your very
June 30th is year end.
Year end.
I got 3 places to eat lunch in Hartsville. Y'all just killed one of them. Getting real limited here. I'm eating a lot of tacos for a while.
You're gonna get ran out. And I can't go
I
with
got
you.
waylaid today.
No, you did.
I was sitting there trying to eat my lunch. She come down and just, woo.
Questions on the financials?
I come in and sit down in Marydale, so I know I could understand it. She straightened me right out when you did that.
Try to.
I make a motion to approve it.
Have a motion to approve the financials. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
I did, we sold 30 more taps this year than we did last year.
Do we have a number on average total sold?
We
What-
sold 80 taps this year and 50 taps last year.
What, what's
Is
a,
that so far? Is that so far?
That's
Through
from,
June the 30th?
That's the fiscal year, right?
And keep in mind that
50%
a lot of
increase
the
almost.
growth that the county has seen on the western edge is not in our jurisdiction. So we've got no tap fees off of those.
Right.
This is development that has happened within our jurisdiction and mostly in and around town. All in favor of approving financials, say aye. Opposed, say no. They are done. Water loss, Tommy?
Yeah, it's in your packet. It's fairly a little better this year versus last year. We do have a, like, Lot 6 area. There's a lot of recurring leaks there. I mean, I think sometimes that's why you see it up and down. You have reoccurring issues sometimes.
what's going on down there with the
It's
lot
just,
6
for
there?
some reason, the leaks I've seen, it's just poor construction, in my opinion. They just put the backfill wasn't properly done. You find a lot of rocks buried right on top of the line, having holes in them.
Do you have a feel for what that one area would represent as a percentage on this?
No, I don't. But we have some other areas that we've kept reoccurrences like this, and out toward Cato, we have a lot of. We've had some of the tap saddles are popping, and it's just the materials rotting on them. And we've changed out, different things like that. We've had some bad habits plumbing wise where you used insufficient type fittings in the ground under the house fittings that was never meant to be buried, were buried in our system. those things, those snap together fittings, or the, what do you call them? Hardly ever use them, but they're just
Compression
compression, or the slip type that you don't even tighten down. They got a name. We don't use those no more, and we let contractors use them to hook up services, and those things they're rotting and breaking and busting all the time. So we're fixing some of those. We're getting, there's some poor habits in the past that causing a lot of some of these things. The boys' camera, the sewer line that was laid not 10 years ago, and it's collapsing where it wasn't bedded properly. So you got these, the ground settles, and if it was bedded properly, you wouldn't have this line. The pipe is even egged, and we're gonna have to go tear up the highway to fix all this stuff. And those was development areas that were developed for the sale homes that there was either no oversight in the construction of them or whatever happened back in the day. But so we're going to tear up the Bill's Highway to fix a lot of these things. And those are some of these camera issues that we will find. We was able to use our small camera because it can go so far, and we could see there's just water standing in the pipe. You should never see water standing in a sewer pipe.
Mm-hmm.
Gravity. So poor construction habits on both sides of our system is going to cause us headaches, and we hope to turn those over moving forward. Anything we do differently, but that's one of the areas. Lot 6 was one of the areas that we recommended. If we can't do the FlexNet system, we would do a water line replacement. It's also one of those areas that was talking about beefing up the lines of the prison, and we might kill two birds with one stone on that deal one day. But these are the kind of issues we're dealing with in the system, and those are just some examples of where they are. There's more issues going on, just the way the system ages. And if we are doing bad habits, and that don't make it no better. So we're changing the mentality that was in the past. Moving forward, we'll make sure all these things are done correctly.
Questions about it?
In that validity score, we had to, I had to fill out a questionnaire to the comptroller because we failed the validity last year. We didn't make the score. We need to make an 80. And this year we've done all our calibrations. We hadn't been doing that in the last several years. We're doing the things you get the points for to get your grade up. So we should be able to score in the 80s next time. And if we do the FlexNet system, that's going to help us out a lot more on that. That's something they like to see, to watch and monitor leaks. And that's something we filed that grant, the CDBG grant for. That being said, and the comptroller, I put all that in our letter to the comptroller. These are the things that we are doing now. We're monitoring our SCADA more closely to keep up with losses. We're trying to find our losses, and that we're moving ahead with projects that'll help us to find and minimize our losses. So that was my answer to the comptroller. So hopefully moving forward, we'll keep lowering this number down as we go.
Any other questions? Next, a report from Barge Design, and we have Luke Burris with us today instead of Ed Walker. Ed called yesterday and had a couple of other meetings he needed to attend, so he passed the torch to Luke.
Right. I guess you figured out about it, so. Nor am I his grandson or son or any of that. But I've been a barge for several years and been fortunate enough to work on quite a few of your projects. We're working on closing out the wastewater treatment plant project. The construction's been done for some time, but we had money left over, and working on spending that according to the plan that we came up with quite a while ago. We've got about $224,000 left. Not all the numbers are quite final just yet, but we'll present those when they are.
And if I can interrupt for a
Please.
moment, that number is a little larger than the working number we had up to this point.
Right.
So as they get closer and closer to close out, and plugging some actuals in,
Right.
we're finding there's a little more residual than we thought there was.
Right.
This was the monies that the dump truck was coming out of and a few other things.
Does that 224 include the dump truck, or is that?
That does not include, that's the money.
The
that'll
dump
go
truck
to
will have to be paid out
Paid
of
out
that.
of
It'll
this,
pay out of
okay,
that,
that's,
right,
okay,
yeah.
that makes more sense.
So we've got kind of two pots of, or two sets
We had
of
thought we were
purchases.
gonna have, I think, around 180 or
That's right.
so,
That
if
seems
my
like
memory
what I
is
remember,
correct.
That's right, yeah.
And so we're
So-
coming up with some plus
Okay.
residue.
Right.
Okay,
So we've got two kind of lists of purchases, equipment that will be paid directly from rural development, and then labor and work that has gone on, such as site fencing or some minor upgrades at the plant or some things inside the lab building. Work that was paid out, that will run through Smith Contractors, the wastewater plant contractor, and will get paid at a markup. So we plan to first spend all the money on the equipment. That's about $141,000 that we won't pay a markup on. It'll come straight from rural development, and then the remaining funds, the $83,000 or so, will be run through Smith Contractors for all the work that has gone on at the plant. So we hope to have all that kind of together and finalized. Rural development sent me the list of paperwork they need to get everything closed out, and we hope to do that next month or so.
will we be able to close out by the end of their fiscal year, which is September 30th? Or
I think that's-
will it extend beyond that?
I would think we should be able to get there. I think everything's done. It's just a matter of paperwork. Sometimes we send stuff to them and it takes a while to get approved.
Rural development's on a federal fiscal year.
Right. So we will shoot to get that done, and get all this money spent. Well, I guess it has been spent. We'll get it back to you in the way that it needs to. I know Smith Contractors is wanting to get their contract closed out as well, so we'll work to get that done. That's all I've got.
Questions?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Luke, thank you.
Thank you.
Evan?
Yeah, I guess you want me to go over the.
Yeah, the SRF stuff. I give the board a copy of the drinking water and the clean water.
We applied for SRF sewer, and we also applied for water. Sewer, you're not gonna stand a chance. You come in about 50%, you're 32 out of 77.
30,
That's where you rank there. On water, it ranked 9th on the list. And with that being said, it looks like you're gonna be in the funding zone. They do them in order by rank. They also do them in order if the project's ready to go to construction, so, I can't sit here and tell you that it's 100% definite you're gonna get the SRF, but
we didn't have
you
that
should
on
get
the
a letter
pictures of it.
in the mail. I'm pretty sure Tommy will get one. Everybody gets one that applies. You either get one that says you didn't get funding, or you get one that says notice of funding. If you get the notice of funding, it's gonna tell you the amount that you will receive, and then they're gonna give you a date that you gotta have some documents submitted. So just give everybody a heads up. You gotta give them 3 years of an audited financial statement. And what they do with the financials is they go in and they make sure that your rates are set to pay for the upcoming project. They either look at them and say that your rates are in concordance and go along, or they're going to propose a rate that you should go to in order to take this loan on. You also just got to give them what your water and sewer rate ordinance is, so the most up-to-date thing that y'all got on file. You've seen that, and you also do a interdisciplinary environmental review. It's a couple of sheets of the topo map and things, basically where the area is going to be. After they take that, then they'll come back with other documents. But if you get the notice of funding, which it looks like you should, then you'll, at that time, this board will have to act on a motion if they're going to take the water loan.
And that'll be a new storage tank.
That's for a new storage tank. It does not include anything with the old ones. So it's all about getting you a new one. So The state will allow you to leave those standing, you just take them out of service.
Because y'all had talked about rerouting some of the
There's
water
three
lines.
that needs to be rehabbed.
Take some out of service.
Yeah, they're in bad shape. They need rehabbing. It's
You're
gonna
gonna take
cost-
Morrison Street out, Grover, what was the third one?
Well, we could, it's possible, but it was just a possibility of sulfur cause, maybe, we don't know.
Okay,
There was 3 y'all was needing to
We had
rehab.
3 that we got to rehab, and it's
And the money was
close to
for what it was gonna be to rehab some of those.
would build
It
you
would
a
be
new one.
more beneficial to build a new one and take those out of service.
And this one will be a concrete tank versus metal, so it'll last a lot longer.
It's less maintenance.
Less
You don't have to
maintenance.
paint.
You don't have to paint it every 10 years.
Well, the outside,
If you can choose.
if you paint the outside, you have to continue to
Can
paint
you
it.
paint it, yeah.
The inside, you don't have to paint it, and you also don't have to have cathodic protection, which is an ongoing thing with metal ones. So there's a little cost.
What
savings.
size tank you talking about?
We proposed in this application for $2 million, and that would be used possibly as a clear well if y'all wanted to do something with the water treatment plant. So you can, that's, you can still change that based on what the board wants to do, where it's located and things. The way you do the application to get in, you give them, it's very preliminary in the front end with SRF as far as what you ask for the project. They look at your need. They're looking at, you've got 3 bad tanks, and
TDEC wrote us up on those tanks.
that's why you got more
Right.
points. That's
Well,
how
we
you
got more
rank
points, and I think it's why we rank where we do.
Any cost estimate on it?
Yes, the loan was 1.75 million is what we asked for.
Pay that out of the bank account.
Huh?
Pay that out of the bank account.
Questions?
I'm going to say by next board meeting, you should have a letter of funding or non-funding. You should have a letter by that time to make an action on it.
Kevin, thank you. We'll move into the general manager's report. Tommy, the next 2 or 3 items are yours.
Yeah, we finally got some dates. These are the dates they had open for board member training. It's in October. 14th and 15th, which is a Monday and Tuesday. And then the 17th, 18th, which is the same week, Thursday and Friday. It'll be at 3 o'clock to 9 in the evening, either whichever day you choose. If these are good, this is the only opening they had this year to do this. So, opening, they had more appointments. So, and I did check with Miss, what's her name over here, about the getting the room.
Community room.
Ms. Pittman?
Miss Pittman, yes, Miss Pittman. And she's, I told her I might have, if y'all do decide, I may have to pick 2 days out of that October if y'all can come to some decision. And they'll do some, they'll put this on their website, they'll advertise it. It'll be open to anybody, we'll be hosting it down here, so it'll help y'all's cost if more people come.
I'm available either one of those. So we need to go 2 days, so one or the other, right?
Yes.
There is there's some online training, I think the mayor may took a class or so, hour or so class or something, we'll give you some of the credits.
This would get you all of your credits at one setting,
2 days.
as opposed to breaking it up into small online classes. You've got to earn, I think it's 12 credits within the time frame.
I'm available either one of those days.
The 14th, 15th personally is better for me.
Let's take a survey. 14th, 15th.
October doesn't work for me and Mr. Ford. We came on September 1st. We had 12 months. So September 1st, our deadline. That's why I'm doing the online comptrollers thing. I've already done 1 hour of it, and I've got 11 to go. It's not that bad. But trust me, you sit down there with these legal classes, that's not that bad.
I'm with you on 14th, 15th. I'm good with it.
I'm good with that. Everybody. Well,
14, 15.
14, 15
did
look
you
like
already,
our
did you already
best
talk, did
options.
y'all already express
We
that
can
issue
find,
to
we
Tony?
might can find, there's some open classes, you have to travel to them, that's the problem.
They may set them up in Cookville or
Cookville,
Lebanon or
Lebanon.
Jackson or,
Because some of them are a couple hours away sometimes, it's just how they set them up.
As long as the comptroller thing is sufficient, which it looks like it is, because they said this specifically set it up for that, I'm just gonna do that online and knock it out, because I can do it sitting right here.
Mr. Ford?
I went on 14, 15, unless they balked on it.
Does that get us in any?
Tommy, it sounds like you got a pair of dates there.
And remember, I know y'all have a timeline, but in the utility district, there is no leeway in your ability to do it. The only thing and I think it may be the same for commissioners, if y'all don't do y'all's training, you could be denied grant monies if you don't follow through on what
They never put too much
There's no
teeth
teeth in
in the utility,
the municipal side.
except if you were a commissioner or that had to stand for election. They could bar you from being on a ballot at a future time for election. But we're appointed. So we're in a slightly different category than that. And from that standpoint, Craig and I's certification went out several years ago because of all of the I'm not sure what we got initially was even valid.
Well, we tried to get credit for
Yeah.
the board's training, which was under the advisor utility district, but they come under the municipal government at the time. All this changed over, and we tried.
Didn't
not
have
to-
the right signature on the paper.
You
I say
know,
14, 15, I ain't gonna tell nobody. I won't snitch on you, man. Appreciate it.
Enough trouble.
You buying the tacos tomorrow. Mess me up on my.
Okay, Tommy, keep going.
uh,
Looks like you labbed for your.
the only really outstanding thing we probably would never turn in on the grant was the cabinets at the wastewater plant. They were rotted out real bad. They were made out of presswood mostly, and they fell apart, and of course some of y'all may have been, y'all ain't been down lately. We had the floor fixed and we're putting in lab cabinets. We've added 2 rooms. This new laboratory room will be the new sewer laboratory room. We've added actually a Bac-T lab in the old laboratory, little laboratory room she had. So it's gonna be, we'll go do our own Bac-T sample instead of go to Carthage and drive off, 30 minutes to go do that. And we'll be running our own lab for our water side of Bac-T sampling, which we have to do for the state.
That saves us some
Some
money,
time,
a little bit of money, a little bit of
more of a time,
labor, a little bit of labor
thing.
cost, a little bit of gas money.
Can these upgrades for a lab and flooring and cabinets be put on
those are in the
excess
list.
funds?
They're in the
Okay.
list, but the cabinets was not never gonna be able to make it on time because we tried to get a bid. It took me longer to get bids. The first time failed, so I had to run the ad again. And I had 2 people come, and one of them just said he didn't have the ability right now. And the other man came and put a quote down. And
What are the, just for my own education, because I know we're running along, what is the rules for contracting with this organization? You run an ad and whatever, what the
If
scope of work
the cost
is.
of the item to be procured is over $10,000, then it has to be put out, advertised and put out for bids. Under $10,000, it can be done through the department head's discretion.
Okay. So we put an ad out and had one taker, and this is
it's
it.
about where I expected to see it in between.
I'm not surprised. Yeah, that's about what I would expect too.
Because that's about what it took in a water plant facility that I was from. It took about that much money to do 2 rooms. And so I was not surprised to see the bid that high. It was probably in line. He was the only bidder. He had some things he has to do to submit to the engineer here that he's got to do, but I didn't get y'all to approve. I was just wanting y'all to approve his bid tonight. He was the only bidder, and we have to do it. It's I I've tried like twice to get some bids and
We following all the rules. If we approve this, we did everything correctly.
Yeah,
We
they
didn't have
put
any
Done everything
bidders.
that you,
They actually advertised it twice.
Yeah, so we're trying
They
hard.
didn't
to-
get a bid the first time, so they advertised the
it
second
was
time.
4 weeks instead of 2.
Only got one, so,
Okay.
I mean, he done what he was supposed to do.
What's wrong with it?
Motion to approve the cabinet estimate proposal.
do we need to do cabinets and tops, or is that bottom line covering
The total
everything?
Is everything.
Okay.
Let's say motion to approve the 24,870 estimate proposal for casework and countertops.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Alright.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, Tommy, back to you again.
We're trying to get the easements to lay the gravity line back up here to where we're gonna build a shop building. This Mr. Carey had expressed, in our discussions, he just, expressed a desire to maybe sell some of his land, which it'll be a good thing for us, because we're limited. The one big issue with building our building back here, and we did buy like a 0.4 tenths or 4.44 tenths of an acre back here to go along with the administrative lot here, to build that building on. But one of the problems always has been how we're gonna get in and out of here. Getting in, getting out may be a little hairy with a truck and a trailer with equipment on it. We've even discussed tearing down like one of the awnings over there, the drive-through, just because we don't use it. It'd open up the wider, but it is a little dangerous to pull out on the main highway out here with a long vehicle. I would like to entertain, if he's interested, and we could come to some agreement, looking at purchasing an acre or acre and a half or whatever, to give us another right, and we'd have to get a little right of way on his driveway out to Planter Street, but it'd give us a way to come through and go out that way. And also maybe be able to maneuver the building in a little better position.
For those of you that have been around a while, this property would be sort of in the middle of what at one time was the Planter's Warehouse property. This easement would come beside what has been called the Green Barn, metal-sided barn back there that is now being used as a metal shop. And then it could cause you to have an outlet directly onto Planters Avenue, which would give you a second way in and out for that storage building service building that you're going to put back there.
Tommy, does the radiuses and everything on that easement work for whatever trucks and pipes and equipment you're going to be dragging in and out of there?
I believe
Does it make good sense?
Yeah,
You're not going to get bound up trying to squeeze around the parking lot or anything.
Mr. Evan worked out a design picture there.
The easements we got on the sewers running up by the.
Oh, yeah.
It's,
They're on property
it's running up by the
property lines.
the property lines, which that tree line you're looking at, it's
Okay.
actually there. So I think when Tommy went to speak with the owner about getting those easements, that's when the guy entertained maybe selling y'all some to help you out also. So,
Well, first I asked him about right of way only, and
but he's wanting to maintain his gravel parking lot so he can get in and out. So it would be a shared use.
Sure.
Is what y'all are looking at,
yeah.
and y'all would just be purchasing.
Do you remember how wide the
24-foot wide is what I had. It's a two-way traffic.
Okay.
As far as the road goes now, it would really benefit you to buy some property down the hill. It would give you more room to turn around. Right now, the way with that size of shop, it was going to be a in and out. You'd have to drive through the building, and turning around was not going to be an option, pretty much.
Tommy also mentioned the other day when we were discussing this that we might add to the 4/10 of an acre that we already own a small amount, and you could put a lean-to type pipe shed on it
Give us some
and
storage.
get you some storage space for some PVC pipe that we really had not planned for that, but this could solve that problem as well. And it could, you could take a little bit more land than just the roadway from Cary.
Well, he said that I hope I ain't misquoting him, but the way what we were doing might impede the future plans for that property, so that's why he was entertaining selling it. I didn't get to meet him the last 2 days, because we've had TDEC doing a sanitary survey at the wastewater plant. They'll be here tomorrow too. What I was going to entertain, if y'all would entertain this, allowing Mr. Beeler and the mayor, the executive committee, if something does pan out, to maybe negotiate something in a deal or purchase if they feel.
We're not at the point yet.
We don't know.
We've got a deal on the table, but I think it certainly has some merit, and I can see some pluses to this for what we're planning to do with the service building anyway.
Easy
So
to
if
do it
you-
on the front end.
Yes. So if you would follow Tommy's line of thought and wish to pursue this, I'd like to see a motion in the minutes. And if you also want to direct the executive committee to work with Tommy in between the meetings, we can do that. But your call. You make the motions however you want.
Doesn't hurt to explore it. And motion to have the executive committee explore options for the future purchase of property and installation of easements.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. I will say that most likely, given that we're purchasing or considering a little over an acre to an acre and a half, it will take you above that 10,000 threshold. So any decisions that are made are going to have to come back to this table and this group of people before we move forward. So you're not going to be left out of the loop. Other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is approved. Tommy, what else?
That's all I had.
Board members, comments?
Yeah, you gonna walk me out of here?
I think we should go as a group.
Yeah.
Just a thought on that first couple that come in. What are y'all thinking about that? I mean, they got some valid points.
I'm thinking if they come in and ask to add it, and we told them.
That's the first I have
confirm
heard.
that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
I'm saying
hope-
if that comes out to be true, then I think we gotta help them best we can.
But they could have added the leak protection without having a valid bill.
Yeah, that's why.
That's what's confusing about
Well,
it.
her argument is that she wasn't offered that, or she was told that she couldn't.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what she said. Yeah.
That's,
That's why I was just questioning to make sure that people who are coming in contact with the public are passing on correct information.
yeah.
If we get my opinion, if we get feedback from any of the folks at the front counter that says that they clearly remember, yeah, we spoke to this lady and I gave them bad information. I said they don't have a bill, so we cannot deal with the leak protection. I think that puts the responsibility back on us, and
I agree.
I'm fine with that. If we do not get any clear cut anything, it would be nice. I mean, it's not a big deal. You know, we need a clear answer whichever way it goes from the folks at the front. If we don't get that, then just like the other customer that was here, we got to fall back on policy, and I hate it. I really, really hate it. But we can't do anything on hearsay. That's my opinion. That's kind of my thoughts.
Tommy was telling me before the meeting too that they had done customer count on the serve line itself. And right now, about 3/4 of our customers have agreed to add the serve line insurance to their water bill. So that's a good take rate. 75% is a good take.
I don't think I partake in it myself.
If I didn't, when this came about, if I didn't expressly tell you that I did not want to participate, then I automatically.
You had to opt
That
out.
was that was when we initially started up. Everybody was opted in. You
Well, I
had,
got the letter, and that's the way I understood it.
you had to opt in on the initial. Now, if somebody come in here tomorrow and said, I'm on that, but I want to be off, we make them sign a paper saying they're out.
Yeah.
Because we need to document that.
I think
And the only thing we've got on file on that couple is their opt-out statement.
And no offense to the lady there, she was upset, terribly upset, and she come in, her contract, she come in and signed it that day, but I think the next day she come in and actually paid it. She didn't even pay it, she was so tore up. So she's been in here meeting multiple times. I mean, could she have come in and done the same thing on the contract and just didn't ask and didn't sign it when she mentioned it? Who knows? She did that on the day she come in and signed up for service. She signed up, but she didn't even pay the bill. So she come back the next day to pay it because she was so frustrated. And, I'm just saying that
I can see one.
Do you think we should, regardless of how that pans out with that group, should we take another review of our policy and how we handle opt-in, opt-out? Is there anything we could?
We have paperwork for it. I mean, the ladies are pretty good about this. I'm in the office sometimes doing paperwork, and I hear them interact with customers, and they're real good about telling them their options and what they have to do. I mean, they're pretty open about what the policies are. If somebody's signing up, they tell them bills due the 10th. After 10th, there's a late fee. If you don't pay by the 20th, you get a late charge. They're good about going through all the details of when people come in here. I hear that every day when I'm in here. So I know our guys are not perfect and they're not flawless, but they do a good job of telling people this stuff, what they need to know about their account, when things are due. They always go through that with them. And that's important on the signing of this, because that's, if they opt in, then now if a new customer comes in, we put that on the sign of their contract. So they sign on the dotted line saying, I want it or I don't. And if they don't want it, they come in, they'll sign another paper saying, I'm declining service for this serve line. We put that in their record. I'm not gonna say our employees don't make mistakes. But
Sure, no,
they're pretty good at it.
Yeah, no, it happens.
Other board member comments? Thank y'all for enduring a long meeting tonight. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Non-debatable. We'll stand adjourned.
Them houses we had a long
Thank
one.
Good. Had a good clean bill of health, so everything was contained, no spread.
Oh, that's good.
I just gotta kinda get myself back together.
A little too old to be out there playing softball.
I'm gonna ask you to comment on something.
I got church league, man.
Back
You know how hard it is to trash
the board to
Makes it a little hard.
Gotta get real